Welcome to another episode of Just One More Fix. This is James. With me in this episode is Lacey.
Hey.
You can find us online at justonemorefix.com or on Twitter at justonemorefix. If you like us, head over to iTunes or to Google Play and give us a rating and a comment. In this episode, we're going to review the board game, The Crow. And now, it's time to get our gaming fix. Welcome to Just One More Fix. We are going to review the board game The Crow. So, The Crow, the board game, is from Upper Deck, is who produces it. Same people that make Legendary, all the different iterations of Legendary.
And the Big Trouble in Little China, wasn't that was another board game, correct? That was not a deck building game, was it?
I don't know, I'm not sure.
I mean, that was their big thing last year. They had the booth all set up thematically for that.
Right.
However, we just came to their booth to try this game.
Right. So we are big fans of Legendary. It's a pretty cool game. But today we're going to talk about The Crow. So The Crow is a movie that came out in 1994. So it's an amazing, great movie.
It is a cult classic.
If you haven't seen it, you need to stop, pause this podcast, go listen to The Crow. Rather, go watch The Crow and then come back and listen to this review and buy the game because it's great. The Crow is a movie about a murder that happens and a guy that kind of comes back from the dead and drama ensues. And I don't think we're giving anything away if you haven't seen it, but it's from 1994.
He pretty much dies and comes back at the beginning. So even then, it's not a spoiler. That is the premise of the movie.
Although I shouldn't have to deliver spoiler alerts for a movie that came out in 1994.
True story.
I'm just saying. Anyway, this game is based off of that movie. And I've got to say, when we first sat down to try it, I was very leery because I have seen a lot of games that have a really large intellectual property attached with them, and the mechanic isn't that great. It's just not as solid of a game. What's selling the game more is the intellectual property that it's based on, right? Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
Completely.
I will say that I don't feel like that is the case with this game because I was very leery when I sat down and played it, but I was very pleasantly surprised. This is a 2-player game, and it says it takes 30 to 60 minutes. And I feel like it's pretty close. Do you agree with that? Yeah. I mean, even the first time I played it, it goes pretty quick. One person plays Eric Draven, the Crow, and the other person plays Top Dollar and the Motor City Gang.
I think that's correct. Yeah. That feels right.
It is. Man, I am good today. The premise is that
the premise follows the movie pretty
almost
closely.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. Even so far as setting up a hit list. That being said, I think if you haven't seen this movie, it is still a solid game that you could enjoy playing with two people. But I think you're going to enjoy it more if you can appreciate the entire theme behind it. I doubt there are a lot of people that haven't seen The Crow that are out there buying this game.
I agree.
So Eric Draven, his goal is to kill the street demons, but he has to do it in a certain order.
And that order is secret, and it changes from game to game.
Yes, and secret not just to the street demons, is also a secret to Eric. He only knows them one at a time as they come up on his list.
So basically there's a token for each street demon, and they get stacked up face down in front of the Crow player, and the Crow player looks at the top one, and that's who they're going after. So while he kills, that's his first target, he doesn't know who the other ones are. And in fact, he can't kill those other characters unless they're on his hit list.
Now, the other person plays the Motor City Gang, and that includes all members of the Motor City Gang. So you control Top Dollar, you also control 2 lieutenants, and then you control the regular street demons as well.
So there's 4 of them.
There are some other minor characters on the board. So Eric also controls Sarah and Officer... What is his name? Officer, what's his nuts?
O'Malley. No.
That is not it.
I knew I should have opened this game first.
Sergeant Albrecht.
There you go. Sergeant Albrecht.
Okay. The character playing Eric Draven also controls Sarah and Sergeant Albrecht. And then the Top Dollar player also controls Gideon, the pawn store owner. Mm-hmm. So the goal for the player playing Top Dollar changes every session. There are cards that give you a goal, but it pretty much always revolves around setting a certain building on fire. So it takes place, the game is set on Devil's Night, which is also follows the movie All Hell Breaks Loose on Devil's Night.
Right. Which is a tradition from Detroit, actually, where on Halloween they would set buildings on fire, which is a crazy tradition to have, but it's neither here nor there. So
there are a series of dice that each player gets, and
you're trying to roll pairs.
There are special abilities based on the dice that you roll when you succeed, and those are different depending on if you're playing Eric or depending on if you're playing the Motor City Gang. Mm-hmm. One of the symbols on there is fire, because the main goal for the Motor City Gang in most instances is to light buildings on fire.
Right.
So, and that's just on a 1-for-1 basis. You succeed on the fire roll, the building gets one fire token. Certain buildings have a special significance in the movie, and Eric kind of draws power from those, being like the loft where he lived and the graveyard and things of that nature. So accordingly, certain locations within the game have special significance and special abilities as well.
Mm-hmm. So the board itself comes in 4 large sections that are the size of a normal board game box, if you're familiar with those, whether it's Game of Thrones or Riff Raff or any of that what is it, 12 by 12 maybe?
Typical square. It's a typical square.
So, right on. But they are double-sided, so the city layout changes from game to game. The characters, the Motor City Gang move on the streets, and Eric moves across the building tops, and I guess all I'm getting to is that the map layout is different in each game.
And the city layout changes, but the significant buildings are assigned by tokens. So those are also assigned randomly and change from game to game as well.
So there's a lot of variability in the game. That's all I'm really trying to allude to, because one of the things that I don't like is when you have a game that kind of plays the same every time. And while that doesn't happen very often in games now, because they do a good job of designing them with that in mind, but this one does a really good job of changing the map layout, because I have noticed when we've played it, it impacts things significantly. Yes. Sometimes it makes it easy for the Motor City Gang, and sometimes it makes it easier for the Eric Draven team, so just know that map layout is very important, I guess.
The game is kind of naturally designed in acts. Mm-hmm. So at the beginning, it always seems like the Motor City Gang has a pretty large advantage, because there's more characters compared to Eric's, like 1, and he can only go in order. So they're setting buildings on fire as quickly as they can. So what happens is kind of like, then there's the tilt. So basically, they have to usually burn so many buildings in whatever section, and there may be some quantifiers as to how it has to happen. Once they reach that point, then top dollar hits the streets, they call it, and the actual objective for them to win is revealed. And then, shenanigans ensue as Top Dollar and his gang try to reach that point. And then Eric Draven's ultimate goal, once he kills the street demons in that order, is to kill Top Dollar.
And that's essentially the long and short of the game. There's some other mechanics in there. There's some plot cards that you get. There are 2 different stacks of plot cards, one for the Motor City Gang and one for the Crow. And they can change things pretty dramatically, either burning buildings down or take an extra turn, negate damage, all kinds of stuff. And they make a pretty big difference and make another level of variability in the game, so that you're never quite so far behind. It's interesting that you mentioned the act thing, because it really does flow that way. Mm-hmm. There are times when I've played it, when we first started playing it, that I was like, man, I really feel like I'm just getting whipped on, I'm getting hosed. And then the game kind of progresses, and then you're caught back up. It's kind of like this nice back and forth. And one of the things that I like so much about it is it really does kind of follow the pacing of the movie in a way. And it's like you're playing the movie without following the plot line exactly.
You're following it, but not in a way that is uninteresting to do again and again.
Right. Yeah. And there aren't very many good 2-player games that are designed with just 2 people and that play well with 2 players. There's a lot of games that are like from 2 to 10 or whatever, but they don't really shine with 2 players. Whereas this game is made for 2 people, and I feel like, you could play with 3 people obviously, but it really shines. It's a great 2-player game. So
I would agree with that. There may be an abundance of like 2-player strategy games, 2-player card games, but not a lot of 2-player specific board games. And I really appreciate this game, just because you can tell the person that put this together put a lot of thought into incorporating every aspect of The Crow
Right.
into it, but still producing what is a solid game to
Right.
play.
It's kind of one of those things I wonder about, like a chicken or the egg thing, because a lot of games get made and then they get kind of a skin put on them. Do you know what I'm saying? And I wonder, like,
I really think that this one, somebody was like, there should be a Crow board game, and they
Yeah.
sat down and really thought about the best way
to put a Crow game
to
together.
put that together in a game.
Right, I agree, because this is very cool. The way it kind of flows and works is very fun and interesting. So this game, it says it's 12. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I've played it with Isaiah as well, and he's 11. I think it says 12. Let me look.
He's our benchmark for playing games with kids.
This is true. It does not have an age on here, it looks like. So any age you can play this game.
Is it on the top cover?
No, it's not. No, because it says 2 players, 30 to 60 minutes, but it doesn't mention an age. But I've played it several times with him, and he's 11, and he's done pretty well with it. It took a little bit of explaining at the beginning, just like anything. The first time you run through a game, I had to kind of coach him along a little bit, but now he totally gets the game and plays it and likes it quite a bit. So yeah, right on. You want to geek out about this game a little bit, or?
I think as far as playing it with kids, I would consider the theme of The Crow itself is fairly adult. Now, I mean, that is definitely relayed in this, and that you're killing people and lighting buildings on fire. Right. So just be aware of that going into it if you're playing with a kid. It's, not going to be as bad as maybe actually watching the film would be, obviously, but that's still there. So just be aware. This game is just so neat because I've not played a game that follows something so very well as this follows that movie. And it's a phenomenal movie. I mean, even to how it incorporates the Crow, and like Eric is only given defense dice based on whether or not he's in the same neighborhood as the Crow, because he, in the movie, it's
like
really
this mystical connection.
Yeah, like this mystical source of power.
Right.
And so it incorporates that as well. It addresses what happens when they try and shoot the Crow. It's got your awesome like Asian supervillain lady that's in there, and each one of the gang members has their own specialty badness that they do. So like, one of them is really good at lighting things on fire. One of them's really good at killing people. Another one's really good at moving around the city. And they're more powerful together, which I think is a cool thing too. Because when you have all 4 of them, it's like this one gives each of the other ones a bonus to do this one thing. And this one gives each of the others a bonus to do this one thing. So as you start to lose those gang members, it really impacts the dynamic of how the top dollar player is using their abilities. So it's very cool.
Right. I agree. I kind of mentioned already the way the game kind of swings back and forth and who's winning. I really like games that can do that, because I don't like to play a game that when I'm down, that's it. When your chips are down, you're gonna lose, and you're sort of playing out an inevitability. And in this, it's fun because the way the pacing of the game goes, it really kind of swings back and forth quite a bit, and it can be pretty fun. And there have been some games where we have been playing where the swing has gone back and forth very drastically. And then at the end of the game, it was really down to one roll. It was like, you roll, okay, if you don't make this one, then I'm going to make mine. I'm going to attack, and I will probably, it's very, very close. When games can have that kind of dramatic swing back and forth, it adds tension. It adds where it makes your choices matter, you feel like, and then bringing it all to the head at the end, where it's still a very close and tight match, is very cool. And I like it a lot. It's a lot of fun. So right on. Do you have anything else to say about The Crow?
I don't know. I feel like I could say like a million things about the subtle little awesome things that are incorporated in this game. Right. But I mean, we've touched on the basics of it, and I feel like the bottom line is if you really enjoy the movie The Crow, first of all, you should watch it and really enjoy it, because it's an awesome film. But if you're one of those people who've already seen it, you enjoy it, I think you're going to like this game because it's a solid board game, and it just encompasses the film so very well.
Right on. I agree. I think it's a solid board game, and you'll like it no matter what if you get into it and you play it. If you like the movie and you're into that kind of thing, I think you will absolutely love this board game. It's a great game. I will say, if you haven't seen The Crow, you need to go watch it. Maybe go easy on the sequels, because some of them not so good. But the original Crow movie is an amazing movie, and it's great, so go check it out. So right on. The Crow from Upper Deck. Play it. Check it out.
You never said the whole name of the game.
The Crow?
Yeah, it's The Crow fired up.
Oh, my bad. Whatever. They'll figure it out. Google it, folks. Thanks for listening. This has been another episode of Just One More Fix. Music has been provided by Kevin MacLeod. You can find him at incompetech.com. You can find us at justonemorefix.com and follow us on Twitter at JustOneMoreFix.